Uh, Hi, Maxim.
Hello,
Hope,
hello.
hope you are
Nice
doing
to see
well.
you. Nice to meet you.
We are really glad to see you here in .NET Conf 2021. We are sure that audience will enjoy and learn a lot from your experience and presentation. Just it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure. So, my session today about Azure Cloud for the web front-end developers. I know that this conference is for .NET developers, but you know what, folks? With using some new technologies, for example, Blazor, you can definitely call yourself web front-end developers now, even if you work exclusively with .NET with C#. Yeah, the new generation of tooling is coming, and of course, what I present today is absolutely relevant to that use case also. Microsoft's global mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And it works perfectly well with the statement about Azure Cloud for the web front-end developers. Yes, Azure Cloud empowers you to achieve more, maybe with less efforts. Time to introduce myself. My name is Maxim. I work in Microsoft in Norway, and I stream now live from Oslo. Quite snowy outside. And let's stay connected. Before I move on, please follow me on Twitter, WebMaxRU, where I tweet mainly about web platform, web front-end development, and of course, Azure Cloud. I'm myself a developer for 20 plus years, since late 90s of the last century. So I love web platform, and I love build for web platform. And I'm a big fan of events and communities like this. I organize few meetups and a couple of conferences myself in Norway. And of course, you will often find me as a speaker on physical and virtual stages. One more thing about myself. There is another part of my personality. I do some hobby level DJing and music producing. You might ask me, why do we ever need to know about that part of your life? Well, this is all connected. As a hobby DJ, I was looking for one particular, quite simple tool to measure tempo of the tracks I play live, like listen to audio stream and calculate beats per minute. This is very important parameter when you want to mix two tracks together. So I was looking for that tool and I couldn't find it. So what do we do as developers in that case? We build this tool ourselves, right? So this is what I did. I created this tool for BPM calculation from the live audio stream. And since I'm a web front-end developer, I used web technologies, or web front-end technologies to be precise, to build that tool. So that works in any browser on any evergreen platform. And thanks to current state of JavaScript and web APIs, it all happens on the client. So I don't need to send audio stream to any servers for analysis. I do it everything straight on the user's device. And also, I'm a big fan of progressive web applications. I wrapped all this code into PWA experience. So now you can install it on your device and it will behave like a native application. And it works offline. And of course, since we don't need network to do the core job of this utility, why to ever require to stay connected? So yeah, it behaves like a regular native application, despite its pure JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. I even gave a name to this tool. I call this BPM Techno. So I have it running on my local host. It works perfectly well for my home, for my live stream from my home studio. And by the way, you see it right behind me. What's next? I want to share this with the global community because I'm sure that many more people are looking for such a simple utility, like free, real-time, online, very, very lightweight. And there are lots of music producers around the planet, right? So we are talking here about sharing something really globally. Okay, that's one point. Next, I have a simple roadmap of the features I want to add to this tool. For example, what if I add simple voting? Was this BPM, and the BPM is beats per minute. What was it BPM detected correctly? Then you vote like this. If something went wrong for you, you vote like this. Maybe something simple, some simple API endpoints on the roadmap. And next, maybe I want to create user account where you can log in and, for example, follow your stats about your favorite tempos or most often used tempos for the music you either play or produce. Yeah, also would be nice addition to this simple tool. At the same time, I want to keep myself focused on what I can do, what I have expertise in, and what I love to do. After all, this is web front-end development. This is JavaScript and all satellite technologies. Okay, what to do with this? What's next point? I decided to give it a try for cloud vendors, and I decided to create kind of list of requirements from my side, or wish list from myself as a web front-end developer to the cloud vendor, cloud provider, a global one. And I completely understand that this set of requirements is not something really unique, and many web front-end developers would love to get the same points from the cloud vendor, and it's equally true for web front-end teams and the companies focused on web front-end development. Okay, so what are the points? First and foremost, hosting of the application itself. Definitely, it should be fastest on the planet, and it should be very reliable, stable. Okay, no questions here at all. Then, since we talk about global community, I want to share my application with. Definitely, we need some geo distribution of our application, so to keep it as close as consumer as possible. So we here talk about multiple data centers in multiple countries on multiple continents. Good. Then, it's not a secret that modern web applications or web front-end applications sometimes are quite complex, and it's, I believe, still mainstream to create single-page applications and relatively not really new, but still a bit farther than Hello World approach, server-side rendering, and some extra support from the web server needed. So it's not just a super simple static web server. It's a simple web server with some extra features. Well, good. And then I definitely don't want to share some random host name with my friends from music community. I want to register my own domain, and I want to attach this to the hosted application. And of course, not even think about free secure socket layers certificate. This is absolutely must have these days. So personally, I myself do not trust any website that is served under HTTP, not HTTPS. Okay, this is a nice set of wishes. Next category is about deployment itself. I really don't want to spend any extra time on deployment. I want to stay within my scope of skills. This is web front-end development, right? So in the best case scenario, I build my code, I push it to GitHub repo, and do nothing else. Good. At the same time, it would be super cool for me to have chance to organize staging environments when I want to either beta test or set up end-to-end testing, or just show my friends some let's say, alpha or beta version of the application before it was merged to the main address, or this will never be merged to the main address if I find this new version not that cool, right? So staging environments is nice. At the same time, again, to organize all this automatic deployment and staging environments, I don't want to go to too deep, let's say, into DevOps things. I know that, yes, you can find some articles, you can find some videos, some books, white papers, how to set everything up, but I decided to postpone my deep meeting with all these technologies. I want to continue building web front-end applications at this time point. So, and I want all this, let's say, set up for me immediately. This is just my reach. Plus, as I mentioned, I have simple roadmap, and I would love to get some support on extra features to my web front-end part of the application. As I already mentioned, maybe it's a good idea to have at least a couple of API endpoints to maybe persist some data in the database, or organize some simple voting or whatever. So then it becomes not like clearly web front-end, right? But still, since I know JavaScript, I would love to write some server-side code using Node, or maybe for you folks, you want to create your backend using .NET. It's absolutely possible, and yeah, I want to just to get some helpers, right? At least where to start, where to write my code for backend without worrying too much or worrying at all about all underlying infrastructures, all the servers, virtual machines, application platforms. I don't want to deal with this. I want to write my code. Next point in this category about authentication, authorization, and all related things. Yeah, here we also definitely need support from backend side, and you can go and implement all like by hands yourself all these flows for authentication, authorization. You can definitely create database with user credentials. But for my simple scenario, I can fully rely on, for example, social network logins, like third-party identity providers. I just need some handy tools in my application to, let's say, redirect people to log in and to understand where they logged in and which role, so role-based access control is important for myself. So, and mainly you still write your web front-end JavaScript code, just using these tools as helpers. And last point from this category is local development. I don't want to, let's say, limit myself with development, with building new versions of this application only for the scenario when I'm connected to the internet, when I have all this cloud environment available for myself. And of course, here we talk mainly about serverless API and authentication and authorization. This is where you need to have some environment to test it, to debug it, and it would be cool to reproduce exactly the same or very close to what we have in the cloud on the local machine, so you can develop your application without relying on internet connection. Okay, this is quite a strong set of requirements or wishes or strong wishes. And last but not least, this is my pet project. I don't want to invest any dollars in this. I just invest my free hours, my evening hours. So this is why I decided that I definitely need some very nice free tier. So I can at least start with all these features you have on your screen, but for free. Maybe later when I hopefully have like millions of visitors per month, yeah, it will require something from me to pay for that kind of hosting at scale, but not now. And you know, folks, such service exists. It's called Azure Static Web Apps. Well, I'm proud to take micro part in building this service. I helped Azure engineering team with some architectural decisions. And this is what I want to introduce for you also. So you know now all the benefits, like why, and the rest will be how. So I created this, I hosted my application on Azure using Static Web Apps service. I succeeded with this. I'm super happy. App is in production and I have all the features I need. And I want you to get the same benefits. Then let's start with answering some questions. How to start? Well, it's that simple that you literally can spend 5 or less minutes for scaffolding your web front-end project on Azure. And there are multiple ways available for starting with this. On this slide, you see I introduce 2 of them. They start a bit differently, but at the end, you will have the same result, of course. And maybe the simplest way is to install corresponding extension calling Azure Static Web Apps for your VS Code. I believe many of you use this awesome code editor. By the way, check online version of this editor. It's available for a few weeks now, vscode.dev. You'll be amazed, I promise. So you install this extension, you open folder with your web front-end application, and then you click plus and follow the guide. What you need is to point to source code repository where you store your code, for example, GitHub, and then you answer just a couple of questions, like where your application is located in the structure of this GitHub repository. I believe the majority of scenarios it will be just a root folder, or if you use monorepo approach, it will be some internal folder of the repo. Then you will be asked where you actually have built artifacts of web front-end app, and it's not a secret that now it's not some code we created to the hosting location. Majority of web front-end applications have to go through build steps then, and after that you will have something in your either dist or build or whatever folder, and you have to point this folder location so Azure understands where to copy files from. Then you count 3, 2, 1, maybe a bit longer if you have quite a complex and long build flow of your web front-end, and your application is online. It's distributed globally over multiple data centers on our planet. Isn't that cool? Next question is, so we started, right? So there is a very first version of, or current version of our application somewhere online. And by the way, you immediately get URL for sharing publicly if you wish, some like couple of random words, mini hash string .azure static sites.net, something like this. Of course, then you can attach your custom domain if you wish. But what's next? What are the next steps? So then, like, we immediately have something to add to our web front-end app or to fix in our front-end app. We quite often do multiple deployments of web front-end part of the application per day. So this process should be as automated as possible, right? Because you remember, one of my requirements is to spend 0 efforts on deployment. So what will it take from us web front-end developers or web front-end dev teams to deploy new version of the application to the same set of data centers around the world? First step, we actually create new code. We build new version of the application. We push it to our source code repository. And you know, folks, there is no second step. This is literally all you have to do to get your next version of the application deployed over multiple data centers, Azure data centers. Yeah, because when you went through this initial step on connecting your app, your Azure Static Web Apps resource and the source code repo, it has all the hooks for understanding what to do on which actions. And push to your repository is one of these actions. Then many things are happening under the hood for you. So after you merged your new code to the branch you monitor with Azure Static Web Apps, GitHub takes control over the flow, and it starts running GitHub actions based on workflow file that was created and automatically added to your repo when you created Azure Static Web Apps resource. As the final part of all this build flow, it runs build command you specify in package JSON, and I emphasize that this is very last part of all the build flow, because it recreates environment, it installs npm modules you specified in package JSON. It does everything for you on every single push to your repo. And like final step, npm run build. And we have set of artifacts for deployment somewhere in your dist or build folder. What kind of artifacts I mean here? Of course, it's index.html, it's your main JavaScript bundle, main CSS bundle, and then it carefully passes everything to Azure Cloud that copies over data centers. This is the flow that happens completely automatically, completely under the hood. You just have to build your code and push it to the source code repository. And by the way, if you instead of GitHub use Azure repos, and instead of GitHub Actions using Azure pipelines, you can set the same flow for that services also. Okay, our next question is how to develop everything locally. You remember, back to my requirements, I want to have full local environment on my laptop to continue with building next versions of the applications. Here we have a nice helper called Azure Static Web Apps CLI, command line interface, that performs exactly what we want. It contains mocks for authentication and authorization. It contains runtime for our serverless code to be part of backend if we wish to add this functionality to our application. And after all, this is just a SPA and SSR ready static web server. So how to install this nice tool? Like any module you have on npm, and I recommend you to install it globally, so this -g flag, and after you run this command, you will get SWA command available on your terminal, on your command line. And it accepts a few parameters, and again, to explain better how your application is constructed, like architecture-wise. This is a command that you would normally use for, let's say, generic React framework application created with Create React App library. So after running this command, you have literally everything set up for you. So it builds this application using React scripts. It spin up dev web server locally. It starts functions environment for you to able to test your code that is part of backend, and it spins up mocks for authentication and authorization. So you can even somehow battle test this part of functionality. Good. What's next in our presentation? Next is demo time. I really want to show you my application itself, this one that I introduced at the very beginning of my session, and I will show you the source code, and maybe most important for you is to have the location of this source code, so you can always return to this. You can apply some tips and tricks for your application. So I will share all the links right after the demo. So I'll have a couple more slides with the links to the documentation, to the source code of the demo, and of course ways to stay connected for us. Now I will stop my slide deck. Okay, and what you see on your screens now. Let me double check that we are here. We are all connected. Yes, good. What you see is actually how this application looks in Azure portal. But we can return to this a bit later. And this is the application itself. So you see it runs in the browser. It works equally well for desktop and mobile browsers, Edge, Chrome, Safari, whatever. These APIs to catch audio stream are available on for all evergreen browsers. Maybe let's do live demo of how application is. I will record it myself. Okay, wait, some connection issues. Okay, just to double check, am I still online?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks. Because I think some message that if something went wrong, just ping me on.
Yeah, I will inform you.
Yeah, thanks. Then I move on. So I open this YouTube video. And volume up, some music, and start listening. A bit louder. It's not loud enough, so let me get the microphone closer. Yes, so you see, it's detected BPM. Normally, when now it tries to detect BPM of my voice also. Yeah, normally it happens way faster when music is louder, and especially when music is like house or techno-like with this very straightforward beats. Okay, what else we can demo here? And you see it still tries to catch audio stream to measure BPM, but of course for the voice it doesn't make any sense. What I can also demonstrate here, and to do this, I'll open Network tab, is API endpoint that I mentioned about for voting. Was it detected correctly or not? Well, maybe it was not perfect this time, so I vote that way, and the feedback was sent to BPM text no/API/feedback. This is endpoint I also created using JavaScript, using Node.js runtime as a part of this web front-end application on Azure Static Web Apps. But now let's return to source code repository. I will definitely give you a very short link to this address, so you keep this always available for yourself. Why? Because I wrote quite detailed guide on all the features, or at least all core features of Azure Static Web Apps. So you can go through in details how I set this application up and what possibilities are available. We definitely will not have enough time to go through all of them. So let's pick a couple of features to demo and highlight. For example, let's talk about this staging environments I already mentioned in my slide. Just imagine you created a new version of your application and you're not sure if you want to deployed to the main address. So this is something experimental, and this is what I did. I decided to change background of this application to black. Maybe not that critical experiment, right? But for our demo purposes, it works perfectly well. We want to see something visible, some visible change. And what we normally do as developers, again, we create new branch for this new experimental feature, right? This is what I did. I built new code, new branch, and then what's the next natural step in this flow is to create pull request, right? And as a part of this pull request, we review it, we run tests, manual or automated, and then take decision. Either merge this pull request to main branch or just close this pull request and forget about this experimental version. So at this stage, my pull request for this new branch is in this like waiting mode. I created pull request and I don't want to take decision now because I use this pull request as a demo for multiple sessions like this. I call this new feature, and the branch name is new feature also, maybe not perfect naming, by the way. What was created automatically for me by Azure Static Web Apps? Well, it created a new address to test my application. So you see, it's this is message from GitHub bot, and it ran through all this build flow of my application and resulted with a new branch. So if we open it, it's the same application with a black background. And we can even see this branch here in environments tab of Azure portal dedicated to BM counter resource. So you see, this is here, new feature, and the status is ready. So it's ready for our decision, what to do next. This is very convenient, and even on free tier, you can have, I believe, up to 3 staging environments per project. That is really nice. So next, if we hit merge pull request, this new code will end up in our main branch, and the next iteration of build will start. If we close pull request, well, the code just disappears, and we can delete the branch, and we can delete environment here. So that's really nice, and the process of creating this staging environments, as I already mentioned multiple times, is fully automated. That is super for the developers. What else I want to demonstrate? Let me start my code editor. I want to show you how this workflow files looks like. Let me open the folder with this application. Just a second, it's coming. And now I move it to this screen. Yeah, so let me increase font size. Yeah, folks. After that Azure Static Web Apps resource, don't be surprised, a new file in your source code repo that was created during this process. It's in GitHub workflow folder, and this is YAML format file for GitHub workflow that actually drives all these hooks and what happens on a particular event. You can of course, I encourage you to learn a bit about GitHub Actions and the format of its workflow file. But at the very beginning, you can just completely ignore this. So it was created automatically for you, and you see that on push and on pull request, something is happening, something that configured here for you by Azure Static Web Apps. So it just works. If you wish to customize this, if you wish to change some parameters, maybe add some extra actions that you want to have as part of every single build of your web front-end app, you are welcome to add that here. But it works in its default mode. And yeah, by the way, these are 3 parameters you provide when you create your static web app, so you can change them later here in this workflow file. So it just works. Also, what I can show you how this function looks like. The one for feedback, it's as a also part of my web front-end application, but it's like mini server side part of it. And again, I the code. I don't care at all about environment where this code will be executed. So this is JavaScript code to grab some parameters from HTTP request and to persist some data in database. So I can follow the stats about the detection. What's when you create your backend as a part of your frontend, it's a bit mind-blowing. You don't have to perform any extra actions on setting up course headers because this becomes natural part of your application. So you just have this /API add, and then all the functions available using their names. By the way, of course, you can connect your Azure Static Web App to any backend you have on Azure or somewhere else. But in that case, you might need to do some extra actions on the server side, right? To make sure that they can accept requests from your application without any issue. And of course, like any Azure function, it's super convenient to avoid having all kind of credentials in the code. So I safely can push this code for this function into public repo because I do not expose any secret, any password here. It's actually connected to my database, and here I just use regular functionality of Azure binding, and I have all the secret strings on Azure. So here I only refer to them as variables. So do not ignore this opportunity also. Well, of course, we don't have enough time to go through all latest and greatest features of Azure Static Web Apps. Here, I again encourage you to check description or README file of this repo. So you see, I tried to describe everything as detailed as possible, how to set up routing for your SPA, how to play with authentication and authorization. Maybe it deserves extra session, so feel free to invite me for the next event. Yeah, on that, let me go back to my slide deck because I have an answer on the next very important question: how to continue learning of everything around static web applications. And I have a set of short links for you. So first, Microsoft Learn. This is our resource that contains all the guides how to go from zero to hero on performing particular task. It contains lots of interesting material about static web apps. Very handy, like easy to follow steps. Of course, we have full-blown documentation about every single piece of functionality of SWA and also how to do things successfully there. And maybe the most important link is this one, akms/SWA demo. This is actually linked to GitHub repo with BPM counter, where you will find description how I created this, and you'll find lots of references to the documentation. Well, on that, Thank you very much, and let's stay connected. I'm always open for your questions. Ping me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn. I'll accept all connection requests with a great pleasure.
Thank you, Maxim. Thank you for your great presentation. Also, we will share with GitHub link to our audience, and in case of any assistant, they can write or open issues and etc. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks for having me, and have a great event.
Thank you.
Bye.